Florida with this extra set of, so I gave it to this package, which is a really nice $80 gift, I think. I gave it to the driver that took us from, the airport and I said, do you have an extra set of tires? He looked at me and said, yeah, I live in Canada. Yeah, I got an extra set of tires. I said, you have a bag? No, I don't have a bag. I said, you do now. And this guy hated me to see me go. He loved me, it's really a neat thing. But I had no use for that. So it was just really, when you're in somebody's neighborhood, let's say, whether it's another state or another country, and you have a connection with someone, that really makes for a good time and a good visit. So I really enjoyed that, and I learned that I'm not a good driver. Not as good as I thought I was. Nobody's as good as they think they are, except for race drivers.
Sundays. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Broke up a little there.
Okay.
And then Sunday at Daytona International Speedway, we have an open house going on in the stadium. You can go out there and through the Toyota and Exalta injectors, check out the Tri-Oval Club, the Harley J. Earl Lounge, and the Rolex 24 Lounge. Get your picture taken with the trophy and watch the race on Sunday afternoon from 2 to 6 from Phoenix on the TVs there at the Speedway. So they're having an open house. They're inviting people out, no charge. Come out free and check out that mile-long $400 million stadium.
Yeah, Terry Sabiston, Motorsports Director for WNDB 1150 News Talk there in Daytona Beach. Terry, as usual, always great to have you join us. So have a good weekend, and I look forward to the game next week right here in Pensacola, Florida.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Bobby. Have a great day. And
okay, my friend.
Everybody else out there, too.
Take care. So, folks, he's a gentleman. He's an ambassador for the Daytona, and he's been on the radio there for a long time. And I had forgotten that he calls a football game. I think that's very interesting. We're going to go to Frank when I come back from this break, but I'm not going to interrupt the conversation that I have with Frank. But I will invite you to call in. And if you say you're in California or in Kearney, Nebraska, or Moses Lake, Washington, and you've got a local game going on there, that's of interest to you and to your locals, feel free to call me. Although we're not a football program, Lord knows there's enough of when football comes in. I know that all the households are the men go in one room and the wives go in another. At least that's what it is in my house. And I'm not an avid football fan, but here's what I like about the sport. And so for me, it's more technical because that's my nature. I like to watch a receiver catch a ball that's uncatchable, in bounds, that when he's literally out of bounds, but he drags his foot, and I like to watch pass protection and the quarterback throw a ball that's impossible to get off and somebody catch it. That's pretty cool. I'm going to come back and take Frank's call and your call at 888 Car Clinic. Don't go away. Motorrad, a longtime OE supplier, is a leader in automotive thermostats, caps, and engine management products. Motorrad's manufacturing facilities feature state-of-the-art equipment with strict quality control and functional testing, ensuring high-quality, long-lasting products. Motorrad delivers world-class product development for its advanced thermal and engine management programs, providing parts, accessories, and kits needed to do the job right the first time, every time. Motorrad provides parts for virtually any vehicle and engine on or off the road. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Repairing a coolant leak can be costly and typically happens with older vehicles that may not be worth the expensive fix. K-Seal is an alternative, a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and to help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog systems. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. K-Seal is available at parts stores nationwide like Napa. Learn more at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, an '07 Honda Pilot with 180,000 miles came in the shop, smoking and overheating. Not good news. But after Johnny, our master ASE certified technician, tested the cooling system, we were happy to learn the issue was only a heater control valve, easily replaced. So we did as we normally do and called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional to order the part. But given there are hundreds of automotive aftermarket choices, we depend on a counterperson at O'Reilly Auto Parts to help us get the best part at the best price. Not always easy. In this case, our O'Reilly contact suggested we install a Murray climate control heater valve, which we did. We were proud to report to our customer the engine wasn't damaged and the vehicle was restored to roadworthy condition at a cost that made everyone happy. Having 48 years experience in automotive service and repair, we know where to find the best parts, right there at O'Reilly Auto Parts. That's why we make O'Reilly Auto Parts our first call. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100.
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by Motorcraft. High quality, vehicle specific for Ford and Lincoln vehicles. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. You can learn more at motorcraft.com. We'll take a call from New York from Frank. Frank, thank you for being so patient. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, I have a 2003 Volkswagen Jetta, and the airbag light is on.
Okay.
And what it does, in the morning when you start it up, it flickers until it warms up, and then it still stays on.
Well, here's I can tell you what I believe to be wrong with it, but I suggest that you have a local shop verify first. And you're gonna laugh at this, but more than likely the problem with the airbag is the clock spring. Now that doesn't sound like anything automotive, right, Frank? Clock spring. What is a clock spring? As you know, the wire that connects the airbag, there has to be a wire that connects the airbag to the steering column, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in older cars, manufacturers used a set of brushes and like a commutator, like a generator, and so that way you could have a stable base for a wire connector, and you have the steering wheel that turns. Because if you hook a wire to the steering wheel, and then you hook the other end to a stationary product, object. Every time you turn the wheel left and right, you bend the wire back and forth like a coat hanger. So ultimately, you break the wire. So what the manufacturers did was they designed a clock spring. So imagine a coil of wire that looks like a clock spring, and when you turn the wheel to the right, it unwinds, but not all the way. When you turn to the left, it winds up. So it can go many times, hundreds of times, left and right over the life of the car, and then finally it will begin to lose a connection. When it does, the onboard computer, the body control module, or whichever module controls that device, sees that the connection is not secure, and that's why that light is on. Now, I'm not saying the clock spring is what's wrong with your car, but I am saying the clock spring is probably going to fix your car. So I'm almost positive. But again, have a local shop check the clock spring. And but what I would, Frank, invite you not to do is do not call a shop and say, "What do you charge me to replace a clock spring in my car?" Because that's not what you want them to do. You want them to verify the problem with your airbag and then replace the part. But in this situation, more than likely that's what it's going to take to fix it. Any questions?
No, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Good luck. 888-227-2546. 888 Car Clinic. So I want to take an opportunity here to talk about a local person, and then I want to take an opportunity to talk about someone that's not local. And that individual is Wilbur Mitchell. Wilbur Mitchell had a dream and a goal. and he's been in business for a long time here in our community, and his business is very successful. And for those of you who have visited the fair city of Pensacola, Florida, you probably have heard of or are familiar with Seville Quarter, because Seville Quarter is host to 4 or 5 entertainment centers, bars, but they're entertainment centers, and a lot of civic organizations have events there. Sertoma Club, it's huge. It covers the whole city block, one city block in Pensacola, Florida. It's really way cool. So across the street are these buildings, and one of these buildings is 140 years old. Well, now it's 141, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, it's old. And so Wilmer says, we need to put a restaurant there. Well, okay, anyway, 4 years later, sure enough, we have the best steakhouse in Pensacola. If you ever visit or if you're here, it's called The District. And The District is well designed and beautifully laid out. But this is not about the district. It's only about a Jaguar. So I will get to it. So here's the email that I got from a gentleman that says, "Hi, Bobby. I'm a longtime friend of Wilmer Mitchell. I met you when you delivered Wilmer's XJ after the most recent update and repairs. Based on his long relationship with you and the fact that he trusts you implicitly, I see you as an acknowledged expert. I live in San Diego and have found a 1996 XJ12 out here. It has 106,000 miles, but it's pristine in appearance, inside and out, in its original condition with a clean Carfax. It runs and drives beautifully. I'd appreciate your opinion on this vehicle and model year from a reliability standpoint. If I could get this automobile for less than $9,000, would that be a good deal?" Well, that's a loaded question, folks. "I know you're very busy, but your thoughts would be greatly appreciated. Doug." And so I wrote back to Doug. I immediately stopped because I didn't have time not to stop. You know, it's one of those, if you want someone to do something, find someone that's busy. So I did. I said, "Hi, Doug." And folks, here's the message for you that I wrote to Doug as a courtesy to Doug and to my friend Wilmer Mitchell at the district. I said, "Doug, do you have any service records for this vehicle? These cars have always been expensive to maintain, and to make sure every dollar invested in repairs and or maintenance are well spent, you'll need to locate a local Jaguar specialist who is open to spending time with you to do the following." And here are the following steps. And folks, even if you don't think about a Jag, even if you're thinking about buying a used car, these steps are perfect for you as well. With all of my knowledge and all of my years, this is what I suggested for Doug in California. Number one, perform a pre-purchase vehicle inspection, which means, and you could call it 80 points or 20 points or 1,000 points. Just you pay a set of third eyes, an ASE certified technician, to check this automobile before you buy it. That's pre-purchase, right? Don't pay for it, then have it checked out. So first, have a pre-purchase inspection performed. Then have the inspecting shop create a list of known issues as discovered by the above inspection, and prioritize repairs and or services in order of safety, longevity, immediate and other possible repairs in the future. Have them provide an estimate of the obvious repairs needed, with the understanding that you, that would be Doug, will be open to reviewing the procedures each step along the way when and if there are unknown repairs needed to complete the upgrading. You see there? In other words, I'm telling Doug to have a pre-purchase inspection performed and then have them to create a list and an estimate, but also to be open to that estimate being flexible when they start to work. And that step is important because no shop can know what the vehicle needs until specific repairs are in the works. You'll have to trust the shop, so ask for references and a short list of other clients who have used their services over time. Next bullet point, check Google and the shop's sites for reviews. Next point, drive the vehicle before buying on roads that you're familiar with to help you better know how this car drives as compared to others that you've already driven on the same roads. See, you don't have to be a technician. You just have to know that when you go down Fifth Avenue in your existing automobile, your car behaves like you expect it to, and then drive another car and see how it behaves. You'd be surprised at the difference in automobiles, and that will give you an insight to at least ask questions to a technician of, well, my car drives pretty well here, but this car kind of darts and goes left and right. Okay, next bullet. Test all accessories for operation. You can do this yourself, Doug. Radio, AC operation, seat motors, power window motors, dash lights, blower speeds, cruise control. Then the switch is on the steering wheel, but there's a main switch on the console for a Jag that must be turned on before you can check the cruise control. Brake lights, backup lights, defroster, interior lights, high and low beams, turn signal switch, and so forth. It's these little things that separate a great car from one that simply looks great. And then my last words to Doug were, after the PPI, that's the pre-purchase inspection, feel free to send me photos of the undercarriage, brake calipers, rotors, suspension parts, lower control arms, brake lines, exhaust systems, just to name a few. And for these cars, it's not how much you pay. And folks, this is, you can take to the bank whether you're buying a used Jag for fun or a replacement car for your car that's worn out or time to replace, or you're going to pass it off to someone in your family. For these cars, and I'm specifically talking about the Jag now, and your car as well that you may buy, it's not how much you pay, but how much more cash may be required to make the car dependable. And dependable is different from restored, so take care not to get caught up in making the car new. So that reply to Wilmer Mitchell's friend Doug in San Diego with regard to buying a used Jag, and you can take those bullet points and you can understand how you can apply that 48 years of my knowledge and experience to the vehicle that you're going to buy. So the proof is that when you buy a car, even if you buy a newer used automobile, which is a way to save a lot of money versus buying a new car, you still want to have a pre-purchase inspection performed just because you never know what you're buying. And even if you buy from a reputable dealer, a dealer that's reputable sells a lot of cars. I mean, there's a local dealer here that is very reputable, and that's Ivan Streckel at Frontier Motors. He's just an icon, and now, even in the state of Florida, he sells a lot of vehicles. Well, I asked him one night, I said, tell me about, how it is to sell all these cars and maintain the reputation that you have. He said, I'm not in the car selling business. I said, what do you mean? He said, what do you mean you're not in the car sales business? He said, Bob, we sell over 200 cars a month. I'm in the car buying business. I have to buy 10 cars a day. That's 50 cars a week. Think about it, folks. How long, and I can tell you from my standpoint, I mull over buying a car, and I think about it, and I go online, and I build a new car, and I talk to friends, and even though I know the business and I know the cars, it's a fun for me to talk about the potential of a new or a used automobile. Well, to that end, if you're in his shoes and you're selling more than 200 cars a month, you got to buy 50 cars a week. And you have to buy the cars that fit under your umbrella of authenticity and quality and all those parameters. I mean, that's a big deal. So I said all that to say that you can save money buying a used car. I also will tell you there's nothing like going online and building a car, which is what I did, and many, many iterations, and then finally ordering that car to your specifications new. But hear me now. You're going to pay the price when you do that. You're going to pay the price. You can always find a similar, not the same, see, that's the difference. You can always find a similar used car to what you want to buy for probably 30%, 40% savings. And that's a lot of money. And here's the trick to buying a used luxury car. You buy a luxury car that's loaded with everything in the world, like I bought mine. I paid through the nose for my accessories, and they're not worth a lot of money now, but used my car would be a fantastic buy. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic, I might come back. A 2015 Ford Escape recently came into the shop, 120,000 miles and going strong, but it was starting to hesitate, and the customer also complained of declining fuel economy. This 2-liter turbocharged engine is GDI, or gas direct injection, and special maintenance is needed in certain areas, particularly the fuel system. We suspected carbon buildup, and sure enough, using a borescope through the spark plug hole, there was definite evidence of carbon buildup. GDI engines are different in the way they inject fuel, and it can create some issues with repair and maintenance. That's why it's important to use products rated for GDI, like Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. Each step of the process is designed with GDI engines in mind. We use the kit, and after 2 weeks on the road, the car is performing noticeably better and MPG has improved a bit. Learn more about Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kits and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. A great program today, and I hope that you are enjoying the program. Car repair, let's see, let's have some comparison here. Car repair, root canal. Well, that hurts. That hurts to even think about it. Oh, my gosh, that hurts. I live next door to a dentist, and one Christmas Day, he gets a call. And I shouldn't tell this story, so forgive me. I won't mention his name. But so he gets a call, and there's this young lady who is in dire straits. I mean, she is in so much pain, it's unbelievable. So he had to go to his office on Christmas Day to help her. And it was like, you know, it was one of those situations, I presumed that she was one of his clients. And he turns to me and said, "You want to go with me?" Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, why not? Well, I should never have gone there. So he goes in, and I'm there, and I'm watching him perform a root canal on this patient. And I will tell you, if you don't know what a root canal is, you don't need to know. It's like a rotator cuff surgery, which I've had a couple times, and that's a very invasive surgery. Root canal is not like that now, but a root canal is really, it just, when I think, anyway, I don't know where that came from. Roly-poly, roller coaster. That's what gas prices are, folks. Roller coaster. Oh, and let me invite you to call, you know, because this is as much your show as it is mine. 888, well, sort of. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. If you have a car question or you have a story to tell about your car or your first car. What was your first car? I remember my first car, but that's not what it's about. It's about your first car. 888-227-2546. $25.46. So, roller coaster. Gas prices, that's what this is. This is the darndest thing I've ever seen. Every week I get from the government site a report on dollars per gallon, U.S. regular gasoline prices. So this week it's $2.60, and that's the national average. And that is up 9 cents from a week ago, but it's down, get this, from the same time last year. And that's kind of what you have to go by, not week to week, because the gasoline prices are volatile. So it's down 14.8 cents from a year ago, the same time. 14.8 cents. Out in California, well, on the West Coast, in California, West Coast, less California rather, is $3.18. And then in California, West Coast, it's $3.60, which is, hey, look at this. Out of all the 10 districts across the region, like East Coast, New England, Central, Lower Atlantic, Midwest, Gulf Coast, Rocky Mountain, East Coast, West Coast, and West Coast California, out of all those areas, from a year ago, the only region that the gas is higher is in California on the West Coast. And it's 15.2 cents higher than it was a year ago. But overall on the nation, get this, folks living in California, you hear me, it's 14.8. So that's 30 cents differential, 30 cents differential. I guess it just costs more to refine crude in California than any other state. Or, you know where the difference is? I bet you money. It is state tax on gasoline. And I had that stat, not earlier, but 3 or 4 years ago when I was into gasoline one day and 1 week, and I found that the tax on gasoline in New York City was 62 cents. 62 cents a gallon. And then the second state was California. So I don't know what it is today, but more than likely those two states are ranked the highest in taxes on gasoline. Of course, if you live in the city in Manhattan, you don't drive. I went up there on a national radio broadcast show one time, and I met a syndicator, and there was a young guy, there sitting, and he was in a meeting that I was in, and I said, well, what kind of car do you drive? Now, I put him at 25 years old, and he looked at me, he says, I don't drive a car. I said, you don't know how to drive? He said, well, I've never driven. He said, I don't have a driver's license. I said, well, really, how old are you? He told me 20, 25 years old. I can't imagine that. I'm a car guy, right? I can't imagine that. And he said, I don't drive a car. I take the train. I take the train to the city, and I get off, and I go to my work, and I go back. And that's really, and folks, and I don't quote me on this, but as we speak today, and this will have and is having an effect on technicians in my wheelhouse here. 50% of all 19-year-olds in the United States do not have driver's license, according to the information that I've learned. And I apologize for not being able to cite the source, because I've forgotten the source, but I did not forget the numbers. 50% of all 19-year-olds do not have a driver's license. And when you think about that, well, Jonathan, how old is John? How old is John? Jonathan?
I'm 20.
You're 20. Do you have a driver's license?
Not yet. Negative.
Not yet. Fabio, now you drive a car. Do you have a?
Yes, sir. You better.
Yeah, Fabio drives a Prius. And how many miles on your Prius today?
I think 230 something.
230,000 miles. So other than a battery, have you ever had any major issues with the vehicle?
Recently, actually, the water pump went out.
Oh,
caused the belt to come off, but that was easy.
That was easy. Okay. So and people ask me, I remember when the Prius first came out, 97. The first thing I thought about is, okay, here's a Prius. Let's fast forward to 10 years when it's a well-used car, or 8 years when it's going to need a battery. And the price of the battery was $4,800 or $4,400 when those cars came out. So in my mind, I said, okay, let's compare the Prius to a used car. Now, let's say you got a used car and you've got 150,000 miles on it, 8, 10 years of use, and it's worn out or it ran hot and it needs a motor. So if you could imagine every used car that needed a motor, and spending $4,000 to $5,000 on a car, it's worth $2,000. then it doesn't make sense. So I used that comparison, that analogy, to what I believed at the time, because I didn't have experience, and neither did the cars, new car, the Prius at the time. I said, well, gosh, that means that every used Prius, when the battery runs out, is equivalent to needing an ICE, internal combustion engine car, a regular used car with an internal combustion engine. It means you got to have a motor in it. So that means you got a car that's perfectly good, except that the engine needs an engine, and you got to spend $4,000 on it. So every Prius that gets to that time and era and mileage have to replace the battery for $4,500. And I said, that's not going to be good. Now that's nearsighted, what that was, folks, nearsighted, because Fabio you put what, 200,000 miles is what you had before you bought a battery for your car, and what you paid less than $3,000 installed.
Right.
I think it was $2,600 if I remember. Is that correct?
I think it was 26, and that included the auxiliary battery too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the main battery plus the 12-volt battery that operate. So you put both batteries in at the same time for less than $3,000. Right. And 200,000 miles, right?
It was like 190.
Well, okay, 190,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an education to me. And it should be to you, for anyone that says, well, I don't know that EVs are going to ever, let me tell you something. Every manufacturer of every new car in the world is spending millions of dollars to electrify their fleet. And so and that reminds me of the buggy whips. They did away with buggy whips when the horse and carriage went away. And then the rails went away, and so evolution changes things. Well, with the evolution of EVs, electric vehicles, we're going to see a change in what we buy, and we're going to see a change in what's used on the market. And so EV cars will certainly, I thought some 10 years ago, that EV market's going to be a niche. It's going to be a little vertical niche, and you have all these hundreds of millions of cars, and you got 2 million EVs. Well, that was the time then, and it's not the time now. And the same thing is true for self-driving cars. So even if you're and think about this. I had a gentleman to call me one day who was of the age and of the physical condition he could not drive, and he was really thankful that and can't wait until a self-driving car, because that will regain his mobility. It will give him the freedom that we all have driving our automobiles. So therein lies the application, and therein lies the great thing about technology. You can't stop technology, but all technology is not good in and of itself. It's how we use the technology to enhance our lives. And so for that gentleman who can't drive, then a self-driving car is a godsend. And so that's where technology application comes in. So I just find it so very interesting when I see, and now let's talk about the car that you're going to buy, or you may buy, or may already be driving, that has lane sensing, and it steers itself going down the road. You have cruise control. You have a radar cruise that latches onto the car in front of you. So literally, you could set that and set the distance that you like in, one space, not one space, but, one step, 2 steps, 3, and 4 steps is the farthest back, and then just ride along and enjoy the ride. Now, you still have to pay attention, but the car steers itself and it keeps itself within a distance of the car in front of you. And I will tell you, that's on the market today. And if you don't think that's where it came from, that being the electrification or the self-driving market, every time we see a step forward in electronics and technical controls and technology, as it were, in transportation, that same systems migrate their way into the cars that we buy every day. It's the same thing for, if you look at the Daytona International Speedway and you see crashes, and now they have the soft barrier for crashes. And we all remember that Dale Earnhardt, died on International Speedway because he hit the wall. It was a freak accident. So they make soft walls now, and flexibility. And I bet you don't know this, or I bet not many of you know this. If you open the hood of your car, you will see wrinkles on the fender aprons or crumple zones. And you look at the fender well, and they're not perfectly round. They're round with a dent here and a dent there. And those dents are there because they're crumple zones. Why? To absorb the impact if you crash, so that the passengers do not absorb all of the crash. Because you can't go from 30 miles an hour to 0 without damaging the human body. In fact, projectile, I forget the stats here, but something like a 2-pound object, in a 30 mile an hour crash becomes a 75 mile per hour, object. So you think about that, and you want to make sure that, number one, you don't carry stuff loose in the back seat of your car or in the trunk, and you don't put on the hat rack back there, which is above the rear passengers. You don't carry anything loose back there, because in the advent of an accident, you don't want anything in the car that can fly through if you survive the accident, but something you had in the car hit you in the back of the head, really? Really? That could be avoided. Maybe the accident it couldn't be avoided. Well, I guess it wouldn't. I guess an accident by its own words means that it couldn't be avoided. You don't automatically go into well, I don't want to go there either. I'm on a roll, more or less or more. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning in part by Berryman Engine Oil Extender. What is that? Well, as your engine runs, it slowly depletes the additives in the oil. You've heard me mention many times, oil doesn't wear out. It doesn't. But additives do wear out. The Berryman Engine Oil Extender is a super premium engine oil additive formulated to extend the life of all in-service gasoline and diesel engine oils by up to, get this, 50%. 50%. It's Berryman's Engine Oil Extender. You can learn more at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com. Your calls at 888-227-2546. Storage, car storage. Okay, so most of you who've tuned in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic are aware that I own a 1980 limited edition Weissach or Weissach Porsche. It's a 911. It was made in 1980. My car has 99,000 miles on it, but you would never know it if you looked at it or drove it. The car is, folks, as new. If you could just take a 1980 model automobile and maybe add a little wear and tear to the under chassis, and I don't mean wear and tear, but dirt and natural age look. If you could do that, then I have that car. And my car, of course, is not the average classic. And I know there are a lot of classics that have been restored, quote unquote. Restoration includes everything, bumper to bumper, frame off, and all that. My car is not restored. It is upgraded. It's continually being upgraded. Not power steering, but steering linkages, air conditioning system, turn signal switch, shift rod lever, and sockets and trunnions and all those sorts of things that are common on 911s. And I keep that car. The moral of the story is to keep that car ready to fire and run at my will. I use an Optima battery charger that is an intelligent charger that uses a computer that measures what kind of battery's in my little Porsche. And it said, okay, for that battery, we need to charge at this rate. And then when the battery gets full, full of charge, the Optima battery tender, the battery charger here, actually turns itself off. And it pings that battery every so often to make sure that the battery is being charged, but it also does not overcharge that battery. It's made by Clarios. Remember that name, Clarios. I'll tell you a little something about Clarios. Clarios. Google it. 1 in 3 batteries in the world is a Clarios. Yeah, true story. Hey, thanks for tuning in this hour. I'm Bobby Likis, your host. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, you never want to get surprised by a dead battery. A vehicle's original battery generally lasts about 3 to 5 years, but many fail long before then. Next time you're in for an oil service, have the technician test your battery. Better now than too late. Today's vehicles have start-stop systems, navigation, radio amplifiers, electric fuel pumps, 25 or more onboard computer modules, and serious electronic controls that depend on a strong, fully charged battery. Make sure the car you're driving has a healthy battery. Make yourself a note. Go to autobatteries.com and see for yourself how a battery can keep you safely driving down the road or put you on the side, just like that. At autobatteries.com, you'll see battery technology, battery testing, how to choose the battery, how to jumpstart your battery, and more about AGM batteries, my choice. I'm not here to make you a battery expert, rather to help you better understand why a reliable battery is essential for your road trips. Go to autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning, folks. If you're tuned in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic right now, you're late. Because this is our second hour of the broadcast today, and we come to you every Saturday from 10 till noon. Okay, 10 till noon Eastern Time from the center of the automotive universe, which is a drop-dead gorgeous, really cool studio. The floor weighs 10,000 pounds, not 15. You know, we tend to exaggerate. We all do. 10,000 pounds, and it rests on rubber, and so it's vibration-proof, and more than that, it's soundproof. And that means that I don't have any reverb, and it's a great environment with which to work for you and I to communicate. And so I'll invite you to participate. It's easy to do. 888 Car Clinic is the number to call. 888-227-2546. That's 227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning by Super Chips and the Dash Pack Plus, featuring a 5-inch high-definition screen and an upgraded processor for quick read-write speed and monitor refresh rates. What is that? It's a tuner for your automobile. It's the ultimate. If you drive a Ford, a GM, a Jeep, then this is a Dodge, a Ram. This is the tuner for you. You can learn more about Super Chips where? Well, superchips.com. That's superchips.com. Your calls when I come back. Here's the number, 888-227-2546. What was your first car? Doug's going to tell us from Missouri when we come back.
Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Let's have some fun, and let's talk about your first car. What was your first car? I'll tell you what mine was after we talked with Doug from Missouri. Doug, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How you doing this morning?
How about yourself today?
Yeah, terrific, man. I appreciate you called. So let's talk about your first car. What was it, and did you have a driver's license?
I did have a driver's license, yes, sir. My first car was a 1980 Camaro.
A 1980 Camaro?
Yes, sir. Had a 6-cylinder in it. I had it for about 6 months, and had some friends. We pulled it out and put a 350 in it.
Wow. So you modified that early on, didn't you? Was it?
Yes, sir.
Did it work?
It did work, yes, sir. The only thing I couldn't do is put the AC back in at that moment.
Right, yeah.
But we had to get some muffler work done and exhaust work done to it for everything to line up. But it did work. It cost me about altogether the engine. I think I bought a car that had the engine in it, and the car had been sitting for about 6 months, but it needed little work on the engine. But I think I gave him, if I remember right, $300 for the car and the engine.
That's amazing. So let me ask a question. When you converted it from a 6 to a V8, did you buy another Camaro so you'd have all the engine mounts and all the accessories? And the engine's one thing, but to make it fit in the car, you got to have the proper mounting and frame parts. So
no, I had to buy certain mounts for it.
Okay.
And so we just bought mounts. I bought mounts. I went to the junkyard, and bought all used stuff. I didn't buy all new stuff.
Well, the good thing about
I was only 16 at the time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was almost 17 at the time, so I didn't have all that money. I was working
Right.
and going to school, but everything I had to do myself. My parents didn't help none on that aspect.
You know, Doug, the good news about the GM cars is that so many of the GM cars use the same parts, and
Yes, sir.
and to this very day, like we call a local dealer if we have a GMC in the house, we call a local dealer to get maybe an evaporator core or a compressor or a hose, you know, something particular to that make or model, and then we all have in the independent service arena, we all have contacts at dealerships. So we'll call the contact at the local Chevy dealer or the GMC dealer or the Cadillac dealer, because the part numbers that even though you're in a Cadillac product book or parts book or a GMC or a Chevrolet, the numbers stays the same. So we'll actually can search. And we only have to call one number because each of the GM dealers, at least in our town, and I'm sure it's the same way across the nation, can query the other dealers to see if they've got the part. And I remember one time we had, and I forget what kind of car it was, we needed it was a Jag. It was a filler where the filler tank is in the quarter panel in the fender. We needed that whole little plastic socket there because it wouldn't lock and it wouldn't stay closed, and it came as an assembly. And we found, I think, one in the United States in California, and we ordered it and fixed the car. And the owner says, "You guys are terrific. I've been looking for that part for a year. That gas tank flap's been hanging out for a year." Well, so you had that. So that was your first encounter with your first car, and it was a good one. I assume.
Yes. Yeah. I kept it for about a year and a half, and I turned it off. But if I could, I was going to also. Just talking about that electric car, and buy a new battery for $2,600.
Right.
I actually have two trucks, and I also one's a GMC Canyon, one's a Chevy Colorado.
Right.
And then I have a Toyota Highlander, but a Chevy Colorado I bought 2005, brand new. But anyways, I have 287,000 miles on it now, and I have about $1,200 worth of repairs since I've had it, total. I've had to change one coil, the water pump at 200,000 miles. The water pump went out, one coil at about 210,000 miles, and I can't remember the name of the sensor, but the sensor went out, which cost me about $250.
Right.
And I've never changed a spark plug in it.
Wow.
287,000 miles.
Oh, gosh.
Gas mileage is about 22, 23 miles per gallon, highway miles. So I'm not really losing. I still have about the same gas mileage, and it's been a wonderful truck, and that's why I bought me another one. With GMC Canyon is the exact same truck, So I bought me another one, and hoping I have as good of luck with it as I did with the Chevrolet Colorado.
Well, I would say this, Doug. I would say this. When you said good luck, I would say is the luck starts with the person behind the steering wheel and what you carry.
Yes, sir.
It's maintenance. And here's the bottom line, and you know this obviously with your experience, your successful experience. If you drive the new, and folks, this is a lesson for you. If you drive the new off the automobile or a truck, any vehicle, you must replace the new. So, and I'm not talking about just tires and brakes and windshield wipers and all those things that are wearables. You have to think about that, and including interior, the driver's seat. And how did the interior hold up in your almost 300,000 mile truck?
Oh, I haven't replaced anything on the inside yet.
Wow.
On the interior, of course, I take care of my vehicles. I clean them and wash them, and not just the outside interior, but the inside as well has to be taken care of, like your oil, transmission fluid, and everything else. It's like you said, it has to be well maintained, and if you take care of your vehicle, I've learned that it'll take care of you.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And to that end, Doug, after so many years in the automotive service business and repairing and seeing so many cars broken, I like triage. I mean, that's what we are. And so about 15 years ago, we created a service plan that's unique and exclusive to our company, and it's called Pre-Repair. And you'll appreciate this. It stands for the prevention of repair. And it is a complete servicing of all of the components of the vehicle, starting with the cooling system, the power steering system, the engine, the transmission, the transfer case, differential, if it's a 4x4, differentials, and brake fluid. And we service those fluids every 30,000 miles. And I'll tell you, by doing that, the car just runs, and like yours, 200,000, 350,000 miles. We have one customer, and his name is JP, John P., and he has a Tundra, and the engine and the vehicle has more than 500,000 miles on it, and the engine has never had a problem, and it's quieter than my car at 65,000, and we started servicing that truck at 6,000 miles, and it has, every time he comes in, we talk, and now he's become an institution. I mean, we should put him on television locally and say, this is what our service does for you. And of course, he's put a lot of brake shoes and rotors. We've had problems with rotors, and we recently shifted gears, and we bought a new rotor from O'Reilly Auto Parts, a new set of rotors that are coated. They're so that the parts that don't rust. They're coated.
Right.
But also,
right.
So we're in the process of testing those rotors, because we used a lot of different brands, including OE, and every 30,000 miles. Now, granted, John is obviously rough on brakes because he drives off-road. I think he's in the real estate, and he's an inspector for draws. When you're building a house and what have you.
Yeah.
And so
and you have to get a draw.
You have to get a draw. Well, he goes from one region of our county to the other. I mean, on a daily basis. So the bottom line is, if you were to ask me what the best engine, internal combustion gasoline engine to buy on any car, I'd have to say the Tundra V8, and that's because I have the experience, and I've actually seen not the inside of his necessarily, but the inside of those. I love the way they're made, the overhead cams, the hydraulic lifters, the chains. I mean, just you go on and on and on. But you've had such great results with your GM product. And I say that, there are not as many people as you, but then again, that's not the vehicle, it's the way you take care of your car. So congratulations, man. You've done a good job there.
Thank you.
Okay.
And just so I can say, with 287,000 miles, I've never replaced the rotors on my truck.
Yeah.
Never had, and I worked on a ranch for about 8 years, driving back and forth on hard roads.
Wow.
And I've only replaced the front brakes twice. I've never replaced the back brakes. They've never been replaced yet. Still factory brakes.
That's amazing, man. And you're tuned into KREI in Farmington?
Actually, it's Kerm Radio, 590 in Rogers, Arkansas.
Rogers, Arkansas. Oh, Arkansas. Okay, that's where you're tuned in from.
I live in Missouri, but I'm catching that radio.
Oh yeah. KURM, the Colonel.
Right.
He is an institution in Rogers, Arkansas, the state of Arkansas. He is an institution. He had 4 of his, I call them children. You can't call them children. They're adults. 4 in Desert Storm simultaneously.
Right. Yes.
I'm telling you, this man walks on. I asked him, if I ever meet him, I'm going to ask him how he keeps his feet dry. And he's going to say, well, he's going to say,
right.
because he does. He walks on water. He really does.
Yeah, his story is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Hey, thanks for calling, Doug. Always great to hear from you, and safe travels. And keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you much.
Thank
you
you
have a great
much.
one.
How cool is that, folks? It's like, it's like Doug and I have known each other for years. I never met him, but maybe one day, if he ever gets to the center of the automotive universe, he's coming to Pensacola, Florida, and we'll tour in the studio here. It's really cool. It's a great studio. What about do it yourself? I mean, what can you do yourself to an automobile? Well, when I come back, I'll give you a few tips. I mean, I'm a professional in the automotive service industry, and I'm gonna tell you how to fix your own car. Really? When I come back, I'll tell you how. In the service bay this week, a 2010 Ford F-250 Power Stroke diesel. The truck was experiencing a hard starting issue, including exceptionally long crank times. And when it did start, it initially ran rough. After a quick look under the hood, we noticed a leak in the fuel system. It was the fuel filter seal. If fuel can leak out, air can get into the system, causing the fuel injection pump to cavitate or have a limited ability to draw the fuel in. How do we fix this air intrusion? A new Motorcraft OEM fuel filter. We know using a Motorcraft fuel filter will help prevent air leaks at the seal because they're the OEM quality and designed for a factory fit on this vehicle. We replaced the fuel filter, primed and bled the system, and the truck had no more starting issues.
Motorcraft parts are specifically designed for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs. Motorcraft. Right part, priced right. Learn more about Motorcraft fuel filters and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at motorcraft.com. That's motorcraft.com. October is Fall Car Care Month, and there's no better time to perform a thorough check of vehicle maintenance items before harsh weather hits. Check your battery and its charging system, as cold or weather can strain both. Keeping battery terminals free of dirt, grime, and oxidation will ensure a clean connection and a stronger charge. Clean and flush your cooling system, and be sure to use new coolant. This will help rid your radiator of rust, dirt, and sludge, and will help prevent your engine from overheating. Daylight savings means it's a good time to check all exterior and interior lights and make sure the headlights are properly aimed and the lenses are clear. And winter is an especially important time to check your exhaust system for carbon monoxide leaks, as windows are more likely to be closed during this time of year. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order your free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box. That's carcare.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So earlier today in the Car Clinic broadcast, we talked about your first car, and I was going to share with you what my first car was in time, and so I won't do that now because we have John from New York who's going to share with us all about what his first car was. So I want to welcome John to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. John, good morning. Welcome into the program.
Good morning, Bob.
So
I was just down there in Florida.
Great. What about your new car? I mean, your first car. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it was new to you at the time, so.
Well, yeah, it was a '53 Buick Special.
Oh wow, that's a 53 Buick Special was unique. So tell us, the reason you sparked a memory in me because my father years ago found a 53 Buick Special, and we went over and picked it up, and it had, I don't know, like 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 miles on it. It was like perfect. And on the way from where he bought it to home, I broke the transmission because I was, I was a young guy, and I speed shift and what have you. And I said, oh, don't worry, I'll fix it. Well, I didn't know, but that vehicle, John, the drive shaft U-joint that I broke wasn't transmission, it was a U-joint.
The what one? The drive shaft?
Yeah, it's inside the tube. And in order to change the U-joint, you don't pull the drive shaft, you got to pull the differential, move it back in order to get to the tube loose, because it's a tube like the Corvette has the front and rear motors connected by a big, beautiful aluminum tube. And inside you have the running gear. But tell us about your first car.
Yeah, it was, like I said, a 53 Buick Special. It had chrome package on it, and it already had a massive bumper with a very unique grille. It had the headliner, had the chrome going across it, the chrome strips. It was a two-door. So mine was an automatic, but it was quite a hunk of steel. I'll put it that way.
Well,
they weighed about 3 tons.
Yeah, they were, and you did spark another memory. You talked about, and folks, what John was talking about with the ribs across the headliner. They put chrome ribs, and they weren't it was little tiny chrome ribs. They were, as I remember, like an inch thick, or an inch square maybe. But I will tell you, they really dressed up the interior of that car. And John, I don't know what year Buick had this, but folks, get this: there was a starter button that was in the throttle. So to start the vehicle, you put, you remember that? Was yours that way?
You put down on the gas pedal.
Yeah, you step on the gas pedal. So I had to figure out how that was made. So I took the carburetor off, so I could look at the throttle, and examine it. And what they used, they had a cam and a ball, and as you rotated the throttle housing, a ball would, of course, ride up on top of a cam and push a contact, and the starter button was on the engine. That was so. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Who would think of that? But what a great idea that was, I guess, at the time.
For David, another cool thing was the line-to-bar radio.
Oh yeah, the radio. Oh, the Wonder Bar.
Yeah, well, right now you hit C. Back then you go left or right with it, just like now. But I mean, that was like an innovation then that like nobody ever seen that in Cadillac had, I think.
Well, I think those were in the Harley Earl days with General Motors, when Harley Earl would design a lot of those vehicles, and to this day when you go to like car shows, and John, I don't know if you I don't go to many car shows because I'm working on Saturday, but the bottom line is when you go to a car show, you see, there's a lot of new technology. But the design of older cars is indeed classic, and I guess that's why they call them classics. But anyway, what color was your Buick?
Black interior with Honduras maroon outside.
Oh wow!
On the paint.
Wow, was it really in good shape?
Yeah.
Wow. That car today is worth probably 5 times what it cost new. You know that.
Oh, that thing was like $1,200 new or something like that.
Oh wow! Now it would probably bring 30 at an auction. Probably Barrett Jackson or Mecum or one of those auctions probably bring anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. So it's hard to say about used car. Depends on the time it rolls across the auction block, and you see on television all these auction companies and the events, and you say, wow, look at the money those cars are bringing. But you have to realize that there are certain days, if you tune in like Mecum or Barrett Jackson on a Wednesday or Thursday when they start, that's when you should really buy a car if you go into the one's auction, because that's before the excitement. And then the Saturdays and the Sundays, they get into the feeding frenzy, I call it. And you have half a dozen people bidding on a car, and then it's not about the price, it's about winning the war. And it's really funny because I've hosted a few charitable events, and we all talk about, I won, and I've bought a few things myself. And you think about it, you didn't win, you just paid more than the other fellow there, for it. So anyway, that's where it goes. But the charity's a winner anyway, you look at it. Hey, John, thank you so much for calling.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well, sir. So folks, if you want to share with us what your first car was, mine was a 1949 Plymouth that had also the most beautiful corrugated bumpers, front and rear, that were later on used by many custom car makers and builders because of the ripple look. They had the little ripples and just rather than a plain, a bumper. And it was a 49 model automobile. I really didn't have a driver's license, and I was instructed not to drive just around the block, and yeah, that didn't happen. And but I'll never forget that vehicle. It had the paint was old and gray. It was gray, and it didn't have any pigment much left in it. And I used to wax it once a week, and because in 2 or 3 days in the sun, it would turn back, oxidized again. I mean, you just can't restore what's not there. But I'll never forget the dash was wood grain. It was painted wood grain, and it was beautiful. It's shiny and smooth and what have you. But it was quite a vehicle. Now, I mentioned to you that I would give you some information on things that you could do yourself. Well, this has to do with battery and battery draw if you're experiencing problems with your car battery holding a charge. And I want to share this with you, that this comes from our partners with Clarius. And Clarius, of course, one of their brands is the Optima battery, which is, the red top, yellow top. Yeah, that's the best. And also the Optima Digital 400 charger, which is what I use to keep my classic car healthy and ready to go at any time. But if you've got a problem with your battery staying up, and you're experiencing problems, there are likely some issues with parasitic draw. And that's with the key off, everything's off, you're away from the car, but something is drawing energy out of the battery. A high parasitic draw with a key off load. And with the ignition, here's a way to test that. So listen up. With the ignition off, you disconnect one of the battery cables. You connect an ammeter lead to the battery and the other to the cable. So what you're doing is you're sandwiching the battery cable, the ammeter, in between the battery cable and the battery. It's that simple. So that means that any current flow that comes from the battery to whatever the parasitic draw is will show up in amps. And that's what you need to know to determine, well, do all cars have draw? Yeah, there's parasitic draw on every car. But if it exceeds 25 or 100 milliamps, that's too much. 25 milliamps would be okay. And what would cause a perfectly healthy car to have a parasitic draw? Because there are keep alive memories on all your computers. Tesla, that's a big issue, not an issue. It can be an issue with Tesla, because Tesla has a system where if somebody bumps the car or gets too close to it, then it activates a theft deterrent system that engages a camera, and that takes battery draws. You don't drive your car, but if you park your car in a busy area and people come by and bump it, then sure enough you're going to come back and the battery's going. Now, of course, Tesla has a lot of battery, but the bottom line with your car, if you got a 100 milliamp draw, then you do have an electrical problem. So to check this, you want to wait like 12 to 24 hours after charging to the full voltage and keep the battery out of the vehicle and measure the voltage. There's a battery that has somehow discharged and your maintenance charger can't properly charge the battery. That's when you can use the Optima Digital 400, the Digital 400 12-volt. It's a performance maintainer, it's what the official word is, and it's a battery charger. Well, what's the difference? Well, a battery charger charges the battery. Well, if the battery gets full, it's fully charged, you don't need to charge the battery anymore. So this is the Optima Digital 400 is a smart charger. It sees that, and so it stops charging. It goes into the maintaining mode, and it will literally check your battery at different time intervals, and when the battery draws down again and needs to be charged a little bit, it will come back online. It's called the Digital 400 12-volt performance maintainer and battery charger. I own one. I own several, and I'll tell you, it's a great way to keep your vehicle charged. And even if you don't have the 100 milliamp battery charger or parasitic draw in your case, but you don't drive your car often, then you do need to use a maintainer, and that's a great one. You could buy that maintainer at national part stores anywhere, or you can go online to autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com for more information. If you're experiencing problems with your car battery, holding a charge or not, you still need to know a little bit more about how to maintain the life of your battery. I'll take your calls when I come back from the break. A great program today. We talked a little bit about earlier in the program. If you didn't have tuned in the first hour, we heard from Terry Sabiston, the motorsports director for 1150 News Talk AM in Daytona Beach, about football. Because as it turned out, a team from Booker T. Washington from Pensacola went to Daytona and played in Daytona last night, and they lost. And now the Daytona team is going to come to Pensacola next week and play Escambia High School. That's going to be interesting. So we'll see. Then a little bit about football, a lot about cars. That's what we are today. And speaking of football, just remind you, the LSU Alabama game's coming up. LSU is number 2, Alabama number 3. How about that? Your calls at 888-227-2546. 227-2546 when I come back.
Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So I omitted a very important part of how you can test for a battery draw that my partner at Clarius talked about. You disconnect the battery cable, you use an amp meter, and you put the amp meter in between the battery and the battery cable so that any current that goes from the battery goes through the amp meter. And if it's drawing more than 100 amps, milliamps, not amps, milliamps, then you have a parasitic draw. So what you do after that is you go to your fuse box and you pull one fuse at the time until, hopefully, the parasitic draw goes away. And just remember that when you open the door of your vehicle, you automatically put a load because the door interior light is going to come on. So don't get fooled by that, because if you have another parasitic draw with everything closed, then that's why you should run this test. But if you open the door and you start testing, you're creating a parasitic draw by having the door open. So just make sure that you either open the door, get in the car and close the door, or make sure that the interior lights are in the off mode so that you don't create your own parasitic draw into that would make your test invalid. It's like years ago, the first thing we ever did, always did, when we were testing for a fuse or circuit or what have you, was to test the test light. Because so many times, and it only happens about once or twice in your lifetime, but you never forget it, you spend an hour and a half testing for, and you can never find the right fuse. All the fuses are bad. It can't be bad. So only to find out that the test light bulb was bad. So anyway, little factoid there. Let's go to Dan in New York, and Dan is going to tell us about his first new car. Dan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby. I love your show.
Thank you.
My first car was a 1970 Chevelle that I won in a contest when I was 18 years old.
Really?
Yes. The contest was whoever had their hand on the inside door handle would win the car for the advertised price. And I camped out 2 days outside the car in the middle of January and then spent 5 days inside the car in the middle of January when it never got above 10 degrees outside. And we had probably 30 inches of snow that week. And it was a wonderful car. Triple green, 350 automatic. It was 300 horse, 350, and it was just a great car for an 18-year-old kid.
Well, given the environment and given your persistence to stay in that car, and given the temperature, then I would say that you bought a really cool car. No pun intended.
It was a really cool car. It was way faster than I needed to have it, and it was $78, $82.68 with tax back in January of 1978.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing that you could get a car like that. And of course, it was one of those dealer deals. So, just a quick overview: how many people were there, and was anyone else there as quickly or as early on as you?
I was the first one there. There was 4 cars in this sale, and this was the best one of the bunch, so I picked this one. And 2 of my friends came up, and they got a 69 Chevy Impala 396 two-barrel, but it was just full of rust. And we had 24-hour police protection because there was a few fights that ensued over the first few days there.
I'll bet. Yeah.
And we had state police, county police, local police, and Pinkertons that were monitoring us and taking care of us.
Well, what an interesting story. And your age, you were 18 at the time.
I was 18 years old. I was between my first and second semester of college, and I was bored.
I bet you
and
terrorized.
So one of my friends sat in the car with me.
I bet you terrorized the neighborhood afterwards.
We sure did. That car, I actually owned it twice. I ended up selling it to my brother. It stayed in the family for a long time.
That's an amazing story, Dan. So just for you to know, and for folks, this 49 Plymouth that I had, of course, did not have any synchronized first gear. You know, no standard transmissions had synchronizers in first gear. And I used to, after I owned it a while, I used to, at like 20 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, just jerk it into first gear. I thought if I could jerk it fast enough that it wouldn't hurt the transmission. You know, it made a little noise, a lot of noise, but I found if I could jerk it fast enough, it'd go, and it would be it going to gear. Well, lo and behold, about a year later, my mother was driving the car, and the transmission teeth that I had ground off and were in the transmission caught up in the transmission and broke the case of the transmission while she was driving it. And I went to my mom, and Dan, you'll appreciate this, and folks, I went to my mom and looked at her and I said, I can't believe you broke my car. And my dad looked at me and he says, don't even go there. It was a funny thing. And so I said, I looked at him, I said, yeah, you're right. She just happened to be at the wrong place driving the car at the wrong time. Hey, thanks for sharing your story with me from New York.
You
as
bet,
always.
Bobby.
All
Have
right.
a great weekend.
You as well, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, let's go from New York to California and talk to George in California. So, George, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
My dad and mother had a gas station cafe on the highway, on Highway 6 in California, and we ended up with a few old cars out in back, and one of them was a 32 Chevy pickup. And I talked my dad at 11 years old to help me get it running, because I helped him with in the gas station since I was 8. Anyway, that I didn't really like the way that felt and sounded and everything, and so I traded it to a neighbor 8 miles away, nearest neighbor, kid. Bought a 31 Model A two-door sedan, and he paid $50 for it, and I just loved that thing. The paint was all chipped, so I ground it all off and made it look like brushed stainless steel kind of a thing.
Oh,
and
wow.
It had no upholstery and no side windows, but my dad wouldn't let me fix it up. He said, man, you have to go to college and you're going to be underneath that car. So anyway, he made me sell it for $150, and I bought a 56 Chevy two-door hardtop, which was coral and white, beautiful thing.
Oh, yes.
I did like the Power Glide, and that was $1,100.
Wow.
And so anyway, thanks for letting me tell my story.
Well, George, you're welcome. Thank you for calling in, and I'll share this story with you too. To that end, another car that I had was a '55 Ford two-door that had rust, and I guess it was a Florida car, but it doesn't matter. Long story short, I spent about 6 months to blueprint it. I mean, I had it painted. And I ordered fender skirts as an option, and I made sure that when I had it painted, they painted the fender skirts at the same time, because at that time we used enamel paint, and if you didn't do the whole car, whatever you painted later didn't match. And so I had the fender skirts, and I kept the fender skirts in the garage for like 2 months because I had to order the pins. I bought the skirts used, but it didn't have the pins. So the pins that go into the fenders, I had to find those. Well, finally I did. And the very last thing I did for this car, after doing the interior and the headliner and the lights and everything, and the paint was beautiful, seafoam green it was. I put the fender skirts on, and I worked at a dealership with my father, and I went home for lunch. Now, this was the day I put the fender skirts on. When I came back from lunch, George, and this is the true story, my father had sold that car for $5,000.
Oh, wow.
And I was heartbroken, and I was angry. And I said, I just finished this car, and you sold it. And he looked at me, he says, you can take this $5,000, which you paid $500 for this car, and buy you any car that you'd like to have, and fix that up. He says, but you know that your car today, it will never look as good as it does today. So just understand that. And I would say out of all the times that I was in disagreement with my dad, I had to agree with him. I didn't like it, but he made a really good point. And when he handed me a check for $5,000, it made a really good point. So when you told me you sold your car and got another one, that reminded me of that story. So thank you so much for calling. Where are you from in California?
Lake Isabella now, which is near just up in the mountains west of Bakersfield.
Yeah.
The dam up here on the Kern River.
Well, thank you so much for calling and sharing your first car story with us, George.
Oh, can I tell you one little thing? My dad was unhappy with me that I bought a Chevy. Because you're as bad as your mother. And, he bought her she wanted a 50 Chevy Coupe, and he hated that.
Yeah, I know. Well, we all had our likes and dislikes. I mean, at one time in my young career of automotive technician, I thought Valvoline oil, which is a great oil, but I thought Valvoline oil, that if any engine did not have Valvoline oil, wasn't being protected. And the bottom line today, that there are no bad oils. I mean, you know, oil is really it's up to the driver and the engine and circumstance. Hey, got to go, George. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Okay,
You're welcome.
Bye for now, and then nice program. Love it.
Thank you. Appreciate your kind words. We're going to come from California, and we went to New York, California. Now we're going to go back and come back to Florida and talk with Steve, who had a first car. Steve, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Tell us about your car.
Hey, so my very first car is a ZR1 Corvette. I got it the day I graduated high school, and it's like, so my grandfather is like, my mom's like hated it. It was like, because he bought me and my brother, his like twin brother, like matching Corvettes. Mine was black on black, and my brother's was red on black. He had his for about 20 minutes before he wrecked it. I still have mine today sitting in my garage.
Well, to that end, as you were telling your story, and when you said your brother had another vehicle, a question, I swear, popped in my mind, well, who wrecked their car first? And then you, before I ever said anything, you said your brother wrecked his car. Funny thing, I was driving my 49 Plymouth in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. I was in the right lane, and there were a bunch of kids in the car with me. I was 15 years old, did not have a driver's license, and the left lane was this adult driver. Well, I turned right. Well, he turned right out of the left lane, and he hit my left front fender, and it ripped it. And I pulled over, and he pulled over. Well, it turns out he was drinking, and he didn't see me. So he says, well, please don't call the cops. Well, here I am with no driver's license, like I'm going to call the cops, right? I said, well, okay, with all my teenage muster. I said, okay. I said, I won't call the cops. I said, but you have to come home and tell my father what happened. That you hit me. It was your fault. He followed me all the way home. I swear, true story. He followed me all the way home, confessed and said, I'll fix the car. I just didn't see him and it was my fault and yada, yada. So that turned out really well. Well, then, all my friends who were with me, they thought my father was going to just shoot me for wrecking the car. He didn't. He handed me the keys to his brand new 1958 Ford, and he said, be careful. Go take your friends for a ride. Wow. True story. That's what kind of man he was, and so all of my friends could not believe that my father did not get upset with me, but he did not, and he gave me the keys. And I learned later on in life that my mom had gone down a hill in Birmingham to a T-bone and T-boned the car because the brakes went out, and she said, I'll never drive again. He got her back in the car immediately so that it would relieve her tension about driving. And that was the way he was. He taught all my relatives how to drive. He wasn't a mechanic, didn't know anything about cars, but he knew a lot about people. Hey, thanks, Steve, for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you as well. So it's a great show. It's a great time, and I want to share something with you that is what I'm impressed with, and this is from our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can upgrade your headlights, and this is a true story. So my brother calls, and I want to send him some parts for his car. He drives a Toyota. He lives in Birmingham. I live in Florida. And so I sent him a little care package, and in that package were Sylvania Ultra Star headlights. And I mentioned this in another broadcast, I think, but I did. And so he says, I can't believe this. He said, I put those headlights in. He said, I didn't tell you this, but I had already put some aftermarket headlights in my car, but they weren't anything like the Ultra Stars. And so I thought that was really cool, made by Sylvania. And I shared this story with you because O'Reilly Auto Parts has an upgraded headlights, and you can get a $15 gift card, plus you earn double points with the purchase of select Sylvania bulbs. So if you have just a regular car, and no, you don't have to upgrade the electrical system or add any ballast or boosters or what have you, you can simply replace the existing light bulbs in your vehicle with the Ultra Star, the Sylvanias, that you can, of course, buy at O'Reilly Auto Parts. As they say, better parts, better prices every day. Now this deal, a $15 gift card and double points, is really way cool. So hats off to our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Great to have them in the house. And it was great today, the whole program. I really enjoyed the program. As we have been on air for 28 years, and each Saturday I said, oh, what are we going to talk about today? And I walked into the team here and asked them, and they said, well, you're going to talk about cars, Bobby. And I said, well, that's what we did. And speaking of cars, that's really all the time, more or less, that we have for today's broadcast. So whether you're like some of our previous callers, Rick here in Florida, or Ted in South Carolina, and you drive a Lincoln or Mercury product or a Ford product, make sure that you use Motorcraft parts for your repair and your maintenance needs too. Now, what is maintenance? Well, batteries, brake shoes, wiper blades, starters. I mean, the typical wearables that need to be replaced from time to time. And then the cool thing is Motorcraft parts offer original equipment, approved specifications and performance for all Ford and Lincoln repairs, along with, on this website, a parts lineup, which means that you'll find the right part with the right fit the first time. and that helps you reduce vehicle downtime. Take a quick tour, folks. Motorcraft.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or high-energy solvent technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Dennis H. was on his way to Carlsbad Caverns and used B12 Chem Tool on his motorhome. He experienced a 9% increase in MPG. Pretty amazing, since the drive included a 7,000-foot climb into the mountains of New Mexico. Learn more about Berryman's B12 Chem Tool at berrymanproducts.com.
O'Reilly. This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here.